just for me and for some context for me, like I'd love to know more specifically, like what is the problem that you solve in your coaching and your courses?
Sure. Well, it's very similar to what you solve, isn't it? It has to do with musicians, but for me, also performing artists in general. So I am a singer
Mhm.
first, musician, yes, because singers are musicians, also actor. So I really, and because I've performed a lot of musical theater, I've come across lots of dancers, triple threats. So a lot of singers,
Triple
actors,
threats.
dancers, musicians. I mean, really, we're more than triple threats. Like for myself, I'm singer, actor, social media, entrepreneur, business coach. I mean,
Yeah.
we wear a lot of hats, and I used to be a singing teacher and a music teacher and an acting coach.
Uh-huh.
So my people, the people that I really help, are the ones who typically are also multi passionate and they love being artists. Like
Hmm.
they are artists. I'm an artist. That's the core. We're artists, and because we're artists, we almost always put the art first. And that makes us make decisions that are not necessarily good for our futures, for our futures living in a capitalist society. So
Hmm.
we and myself for sure, just again and again, I found myself making choices where I would take the lowest of low paid gigs because maybe it seemed prestigious or I thought maybe it would lead to some kind of exposure instead of prioritizing building assets. So at the end of the day, I could create my own productions at my own level. I could
Yeah.
create the most incredible things if I had the resources to do it, and I could give jobs to other artists. And
Hmm.
but instead it was like, okay, well, let me nickel and dime myself just to get on stage and be performing. So I really
Yeah.
help artists, performing artists, musicians to get out of that trap and into, okay, how can we actually treat our careers, because we're all running small businesses when we're
Hmm.
when we're artists, when we're freelancers. How can I help people to build businesses? I like to say to go from freelancer to CEO. So it's not a
Hmm.
question of no longer performing. Of course we're going to perform. It's about performing on your own terms. It's about not waiting for gatekeepers. It's about leveraging social media to explode.
I love that. Yeah, it brings back like a thought for me that I've had with like conversation with my roommate, and it's about like the dream versus like the reality, in the sense of like a lot of us creatives, we tend to dream a lot. We tend to put the, like when you said, put the art first, but then we also live in a reality where it's like we got to make money with our art somehow. We got to be able to live as musicians, and um, I was talking to a couple friends yesterday. Um, I was like catching up with some of my friends that I went to college with, and like the other music majors that I was studying with, and I feel like a lot of these musicians' mindsets are, hey, I'm gonna get a 9 to 5 job so that I can like do music on the side and things like that. And I really like how you're helping those musicians be like, wait, no, like you can actually make this your main thing.
Yes, yes, exactly. And a lot of them are, I'm going to have the 9 to 5 so I can do it on the side, or I'm going to have the 9 to 5 until I get discovered.
Yeah. So
And it's
I'm
like,
kind of curious. I'm kind of curious for your particular audience, like what stage of like musicianship do you feel like they should be for you to help them the best? Because like for me, for example, um, like I am like a DJ and producer as well, and I'm more of like the start of my career because I last year I spent a lot of time working on my craft, and then now this year I'm really getting myself out there. But one of the things that really aligned between me and you is that I'm making my own events. I've done
yeah.
like two of my own events already, just promoted it with my friends and growing my following that way. So I align heavy with with the do it yourself mentality, and like I don't need to wait for someone to book me. Like I just had a gig yesterday where someone did book me and that was really fun, but it gives me a lot of confidence knowing that like I don't have to rely on that. I can I I have a loyal following that will come to my events as well. So like for your particular audience, like you usually like what stage of musicianship are they at to get the like yeah.
Yeah, I love that question. So I think that the honest answer, like my heartfelt answer, is it doesn't matter. You just get to
Hmm.
start wherever you are. And there's different ways. It's like a whole mindset shift. So as an opera singer, so that's my opera training. So opera training is the most rigorous, I would say, I mean, it's really rigorous because like let's
I get it.
say
I get
musical
it.
theater is also rigorous. You
Hmm.
have to have, great technique. You have to do 8 shows a week. You have to dance. But in opera, you have to be so exact in terms
Hmm.
of being able to execute what the conductor and the composer were wanting in their music. And then on top of that, ideally, you're still an actor, you're still able to move around the stage well. But then on top of that, you're singing in a whole bunch of foreign languages. So
Oh.
let's not let's not, forget, let's not gloss over that piece of it. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, you have to, you have to memorize these big scores in another language.
Uh-huh.
so it's a really exacting craft. It's an exacting thing to
Hmm.
decide to be an opera singer. But what I found is that you can be good, you can be really good, and then
Uh-huh.
still not be getting any kind of work. So,
Yeah.
like to say you have to be at a professional level, well, who determines what that professional level is? Now, the other part of this is that you can be earlier in your journey and you can be sharing your journey of the learning of your craft as part of your
Hmm.
way of making money, which
Oh,
is a
nice.
great way of learning. So for me, I it depends on what they want to accomplish. If they're like, okay, I'm ready to be booking great concerts and huge roles, and I want to be putting on my own concerts at like Alice Tully in New York or something,
Hmm.
then okay, you're gonna have to be a full on professional. But if they're like, I want to grow my audience as I grow as an artist, and I'm not selling tickets at Alice Tully that I'm going to rent and put on a concert. Instead, I am, going to be doing live streams, and I'm going to
Yeah.
be, on Twitch on a regular basis as I'm getting better and better. I can help them too.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's like I feel like well I align with that too because every time I do my every time I work on my music, I just stream it on Twitch. So I have a my YouTube is like full of these like hours and hours and hours along of like myself working on my craft and I've like I've connected with a lot of other like producers through that as well. So that's awesome that
And
you're teaching that.
the reason that I bring up the opera particularly is because in the
Hmm.
opera world, we're taught not to do this. We're
Oh,
taught
really?
to
What do you?
be fully evolved in our craft before we put ourselves out there. And that was really a
Gotcha.
disservice to me as I was coming up because I was
Hmm.
discouraged from putting myself out there, discouraged from doing auditions, discouraged from doing competitions where
Hmm.
they would quote unquote remember me that I wasn't good enough yet. So then you
Mm.
get this idea in your head that you're not good enough, and then you're like, when is good? There is no good enough. Like you're never going to
Yeah.
be quote unquote good enough. That is a complete mental construct. You're either the right fit for a role or you're not the right fit for the role. It's not about good enough. And so I think it's really important to understand that you can be building your audience as you evolve, which is, again,
Yeah.
it's just so different than the training that a lot of artists receive in music schools, in acting schools. It's like I have to be a final product before I put myself out there. And that's just
Yeah.
not the way it is anymore. In fact, people are rooting for you. I mean, if you just imagine the like people who have watched you crack, and do like put it out there anyway, and then you nail it, whatever that song
Hmm.
is, it's like, yay, they're excited. And so that just requires a certain knowledge of how to build a following on social media, a personality that's open to getting better in public instead of private, which one is one of the things I talk about all the time.
Yeah, people love following journeys and people love seeing like growth. So yeah, I love telling that to my clients too. Like document your growth, document what's happening in your teaching and what you're doing outside of teaching, performance wise as well. Um, I'd love to hear how these kind of like problems align with your story
Oh yeah.
and then kind of part of that too. Um, it's like I'd love to know like what do you feel what do you feel like it is about you leans towards just doing it for yourself like uh like making your own concerts or just making your own social media like I could share a little bit about myself about that like what I feel like is about like why I do that, why I kind of lean towards that, but like I'd love to hear more about your story and how it kind of aligns with the problems that you're solving.
Okay, I'll go first and then you share yours next.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So everything that I'm talking about are the traps that I fell into as I
Mhm.
was coming up. And what's so fascinating looking back is that I was always an artistpreneur. Really, I was always an entrepreneurial in the way I was thinking. And so when I
Mhm.
first graduated from music school, I had people started asking me if I taught singing. This was actually before I went to music school. They would ask if I taught singing. And if you're thinking about teaching, the biggest thing I can tell you is to say yes the next time someone asks you. So a lot of us, people will ask, like, oh, do you teach singing? Do you teach piano when they hear you play? And you're like, oh, no, I never done that. Instead of like, yeah, or I haven't done it, but I'd like to give it a shot. You want to be my first
Mhm.
student? Like, let's do this. And so that's what I did. The very first person that asked, I was like, okay. I was
Yeah.
23, like, sure, why not? It was my neighbor who would hear me. I would be singing and practicing in my apartment, and she was in the apartment right across the hall from me. And one day she knocked on the door and she's like, I hear you singing all the time. And I just wondered, do you teach? And I was like, huh. Well, I haven't, but I'd like to give it a try. Let's do this. And so we did. And so I was teaching. And then when I got a young artist, a resident young artist position in Florida, and I went out to Florida, and it turned out that it wasn't like full time work there.
Mhm.
And so I started my own singing studio. So I was teaching voice, and I started putting on concerts at these upscale retirement communities
Oh,
in
nice.
Florida. And it was really good. I would be making like $500. And this was a lot of years ago. I was making
Yeah.
$500 for a performance. I would either sing with a karaoke track or I would bring in a pianist. I had lovely relationships with a bunch of local pianists. We would give each other work. So here I am building business. I had two businesses, two parallel businesses. One as a singing teacher and one as a concert performer. This was good money. But, and this was where I fell into the trap,
Mhm.
I would get an opportunity to do something that was on a stage for less money, or I would be offered something that was quote unquote going to pay an exposure but didn't. And I
Mhm.
would do those jobs and turn down a student or cancel a concert. I didn't ever cancel a concert, but I didn't prioritize the income streams that I had that were really good and
Mhm.
totally in alignment with my passions, for instead like a community theater gig playing
Mm.
a role that I wanted to play because I wanted to play the
How were you
role.
like feeling in that decision, like in that moment? Like what were you feeling?
Feeling is a good question. I would say I was stuffing my feelings and I was not thinking.
Mm.
It was like I was going on, I mean, that's not even exactly true. I was going on I think the false narrative, what I realize now is a false narrative that I had to build my resume and pay my dues in order to book the credible work. You know, in order to
Mm,
get to Broadway, I needed to have done the role before, and here I was being offered the opportunity in a community theater production. Now,
hmm
it this is a very I think this is complex because for sure there is time in your career where you need to take every opportunity to get on stage.
hmm
And so I don't regret any of the roles that I took. I mean, I'm so grateful that I got to do these roles. They were amazing. I think that the real problem had to do with my mindset around somehow that money, even though it was less, was worth more, which was not
hmm
true. And that, maybe there could have been a way that I could have prioritize the income from the other jobs while still doing the role, or
hmm
maybe it was about not putting myself out for more of the roles that actually paid better, or the opportunities that paid better doing theater out of insecurity, or
hmm
it's not so cut and dried, but the when I look at my own past. But for sure, if I could have shifted in my mind that I was making my living in music as a concert singer and as a teacher, and that was freaking awesome. And I was
Yeah.
doing it. I was already a success. If I could have made that shift in my mind instead of like, I'm not a success because I'm not making my money from, let's say, AGMA or equity contracts. And
hmm
honestly, I've met people who have been on Broadway multiple times and are still struggling financially.
Gotcha. So is it almost like, was it like the industry was like telling you like you had to go through these, you have to perform here in order to perform here in order to perform here? Like,
Yeah.
is that the kind of the norm
And
back in the day?
yeah, back in the day for
Yeah.
sure. And I mean,
hmm
understand there wasn't social media at this time. So that
hmm
wasn't an option. But I had a website, and SEO was totally a thing. So I was getting people
Yeah.
from SEO, and I was also doing, like real cold calling to book these concerts. I have a YouTube video if anybody wants to see it. It's like my second YouTube video was all about how do you get work? How can you make it just
hmm
getting paid work, and you create it for yourself? So, I mean, I should have been so incredibly proud of myself and the career that I was creating for myself. But instead, I bought into a narrative that who does that narrative serve? This narrative that you have
hmm
to wait to be discovered, that the gatekeepers hold all the keys to the kingdom. Who does that serve? That I should be competitive towards my fellow sopranos, that I should be insecure, that I wasn't good enough. This is
hmm
like what so many of us carry, particularly in the sort of musical theater opera world, the ones that are
Yeah.
on stage. There's so much competition. Who does that serve? Well, it didn't serve me, and it didn't serve my community of singers. It serves the people who are benefiting from us being insecure because they can pay us less and
Yeah.
treat us worse.
100% agree. Like, so for you, like, where was the shift for you now? Like, what do you keep as like your compass to guide you moving forward in the right path?
There was a real come to the mountain moment for me when I booked one of my dream roles. It was the Mother Abbess in The Sound of Music. And I was
Oh.
standing in the spotlight. There were 2,000 people in the audience, and the production was like great production values. My fellow castmates were incredible. It was just a phenomenal production. And it was a tour, even. I was in Alaska on this
Mm.
tour. So this was not local. It was a community theater. This was like the real deal. I was there in the spotlight singing a curtain closing number. It's like gorgeous, climb every mountain, 2,000 people giving a standing ovation. And it crossed my mind that I was making about minimum wage.
Mm.
And that
Yeah, it's like I have everything I thought I wanted, but why don't I feel like it's like why don't I feel like fulfilled with
well,
it? Is that is
why
that
aren't
is
they
that
paying me?
Yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
why I
Like,
am. I'm
yeah,
artistically fulfilled. I'm feeling
fulfill.
totally fulfilled artistically. This is amazing. This is like the highlight of my career
Hmm.
artistically. Why am I not being compensated in a like manner?
Yes,
There's something
yes.
wrong with the system if that's the case. Like it's not
Hmm.
me. It's not that I'm not good enough. Here I am. This is an amazing opportunity, and yet I'm making minimum wage. Like that's not a appropriate compensation for my time and energy and expertise. This is not an appropriate energetic exchange for the
Hmm.
hundreds of thousands of dollars that I've invested into the study of my craft and the hundreds of thousands of hours that I've invested into learning and mastering my craft. This is not an equitable energetic exchange. There's something
Hmm.
wrong. And that was the
Yeah,
moment where I was finally like, okay, I'm going to get online and master social media now.
yeah. So what happened next?
So after that, I had, it was, I believe everything happens in perfect timing. So even before I had left, so this was in January of 2019, I was
Hmm.
like, I think I should get on YouTube. And I started searching on YouTube, and I was like, oh, it was even my niece was telling me I should get on Instagram. So I was like, I was on Instagram, and I was like, how do you do this Instagram thing? And then I'm like searching YouTube videos and kind of DIYing on, how do you do this? And then I was like, but maybe I should be on YouTube. And I found this amazing young YouTuber. And she had
Hmm.
just started. Her name is Vanessa Lau. You've probably heard of her. A lot of people in your audience will have heard of her. And she is not a musician. She was just had quit her 9 to 5 and was starting on YouTube. And I was like, you
Hmm.
know, wow, this girl, the way she talks about it really makes sense to me. And she is giving so much real value here in this YouTube video. Oh, she's launching a coaching program right now? Huh. So I called or I like submitted an application, and she took me, and I signed up to be her one-to-one client. I was like the fifth person in that, as
Oh,
her video
nice.
went completely viral and went like hit millions of, of views, but I was number 5. And so I just got in
Nice.
at the perfect time, right as she was blowing up.
Hmm.
And that was, I think I made the commitment in December, maybe or January. I can't quite remember but right before I went on the tour. So I
Oh,
was
okay.
thinking about all of this as I was on the tour. I had this moment.
Gotcha.
I come back and then I'm just all in. And so one of the takeaways here, though, is if you want to learn how to master something, don't try to DIY it. It's like how much did you invest in your learning how to play your instrument? It's
Hmm.
how much did you invest in becoming a master of your craft? Did you go to school? So once I realized that I was going to be serious about social media, immediately I invested. I invested time and I invested money in mastering it. And then ever since then, I have just been pouring my energy into my money and energy. I continue to invest. I continue to invest
Hmm.
in learning new things so that I can really show up on social media in a way that makes sense instead of just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something stick, which is again one of the mistakes that so many
Hmm.
musicians are making. It's like, I'm supposed to be on social media, so I'll try this. Oh, nobody liked it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Maybe
okay,
I
I'll
should
try
just stop.
this. And nobody's watching. I must not be good enough. I'll take a break. Okay, well,
To cycle. Yeah.
I've been on break for a while now. I really should get on social media. Okay, I'll try that. Oh, nobody liked it. Okay, I'm going to work really hard on this one. I'm going to really work on it. And I've spent 5 hours on it. And I'm like, okay, there. Oh, still nobody's like, oh, God, this social media thing doesn't work. I'm going to take another break. I don't like this social media thing.
No, I
And
feel
the
that.
cycle.
Yeah. Yep. The cycle.
And that's in most part because people didn't choose to invest in actual learning strategy and in the mindset. They're just,
Hmm.
let me just try because I'm supposed to, and social media shouldn't be hard. I see other people blowing up, so it's easy. Well, no, it's not. It's not easy. Just like learning how to speak a foreign language or learning how to play guitar. It's like it's easy to a certain level, and then it's not easy. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of commitment.
Hmm. Yeah, well, appreciate you for sharing all of that. I think I really align with what you're saying about just investing in your craft because um, after music school, I was probably set up to be a public school music teacher,
Mhm.
and I ended up not taking my fifth year teacher credential um, just because it didn't. I just didn't feel right with it. Um, And I feel like what's helped me grow as a coach, as an artist, as a musician is like I've always just done what I wanted to do. And I've always like choosing music, I like it was literally just a decision of like I don't know what else I want to do. I really like being in band right now, so I'm just going to be a music major. And I became a music major. And then the next thing was like starting to teach piano lessons. So like in between the summer, like after graduating high school and into my first year as a music ed major, I was like, how much am I going to learn in a classroom about teaching? Like I need to teach.
Mm.
So I got out my first piano student and it kind of grew from there. But a big shift for me was like not continuing like to do my teacher credential after college because I feel like there was so much expectation from me. Um, like I was president of the CMEA club, and I had like a fellowship that I was doing that was like shadowing a teacher at a public school too. But it's just like it never felt right for me. So instead, like I chose teaching my piano lessons, continuing to do that, continue to grow that, and then continuing to grow the coaching as well. And then like another big shift for me happened when I had to choose between coaching and teaching um, and teaching music. So um, I had this big insecurity for me coming up where I was like, I don't feel aligned teaching piano lessons anymore. Like I'd rather just coach. I'd rather just like help teachers. But I had this imposter syndrome coming up for me, being like who are you to be coaching teachers if you're not teaching anymore? So I had this whole like year long
Mm.
transition that was stopping me from being able to move forward with the coaching because I always felt like I had to be teaching a student in order for me to be valid, but I didn't need that. And well, like I let my past like identity stop me from being able to move forward. But once I got past that, like um, I was able to grow the coaching like a lot more. And then now, like this past year, like I wanted to go all in on music production and like being a music producer and being able to DJ to get my music out there. So one of my past clients was like a music production coach, and I hit him up. First off, I bought his course. I went through the whole thing. I learned a lot, and I was like, "Hey, I want like one-on-one lessons." So we so this past year, I've been getting coaching from him as well, and that's been able to help me like progress in my skills, but my career as an artist like a lot faster than relying on the things that I've learned in music school. So that's been able to help me. Like I've released like 30 songs in the past year, and um, I've done two of my own events, and like I'm still networking and reaching out to other DJs and producers to support their events, and like they bring me on as well. But I really feel like my life right now is really aligned with being able to coach, but also like have the time and the energy to pour into my craft as an artist as well. So yeah, I feel like it really aligns with everything you said.
Yeah, I love that story. It's so fantastic. And notice that that mindset piece was really the thing that needed to change in order for you to get to your next level. That's so often the case that it's something in the mindset that's going to then allow you to implement the strategy.
Yeah, yeah. So for you, and when you like actually help your clients, like what are kind of like the main things that you actually like help them do as a part of your like your offer?
Wow, I help with a lot of things because I've done so many years of my own personal development. I have so many tools that I bring to the table. And then also because I was an artistpreneur, an entrepreneur for so many years, I bring a lot of that to the table too. So I would
Hmm.
say that one of my superpowers is helping people to find so that they
Hmm.
can then implement the strategy that I should be on social media and now you've taught me how to do the strategy but I'm not consistent. It's like, why aren't you consistent? Well, I help with that. So I
Hmm.
help artists with social media, with consistency, with imposter syndrome, with funnels, and all the good stuff around creating offers, learning how to sell, the imposter syndrome that comes up around selling, and the insecurity and the limiting beliefs that come up around selling. And so it's a very holistic package around making money as an artist from a very high integrity place.
Nice, nice. Do you have any like stories, like client stories that you could share?
Sure, let's
Yeah.
see. Um, One of my clients that went through sort of a crisis around this issue of,
Hmm.
am I going to be a coach or am I a musician? Am I coach? Am I musician or am I composer, musician, player, or am
Hmm.
I a coach? And that was a really difficult thing for him. And it was like, I have to be all in with my music. And I bet a lot of people in your audience, and for sure a lot of people in my audience, have felt this way. It sounds a little bit like you're almost going through some of that right now as you put so much more into the music
Yeah,
production.
yeah.
And this was something that happened to me too. And I sort of left that part out of it, but that was one of the problems that I had back in the day. If I could have done them all, but instead I would go through these periods where I'd be like, I need to be all in with my performing, but not the concert performing that makes money. I need to be all in with like auditions that pay nothing, that require me to pay to get to them. If you're an opera singer, it's like,
Yeah.
makes no sense. Or I have to pay for the accompanist, or I have to pay to apply to audition. Like, what?
Hmm.
And so I would say I have to go all in with that instead of the truth, which is that I'm a born singer. I have a great gift for music, and I have a gift for teaching. I have a gift for coaching. And these are both fundamental to who I am. And in the case of my client, the same thing, fundamental to who he is
Hmm.
both an extraordinary artist coach and an extraordinary musician. He plays like three or four different instruments and sings and composes, and he's brilliant. And so watching him flourish and step into more and more of his own glory in all of the
Hmm.
different facets, seeing him hit his first 5K month and then his first 10K month and then his first 12K month, like, wow, watching him produce his first live show and have it be, a big award winning production at the end of
Hmm.
the day, with like an incredible video, like live concert video that came out of it that won awards. It's like, and getting to have witnessed that journey of like, can I do both,
Hmm.
to now he's really integrated.
Yeah. I love that. Like at the end of the day, we are like we're not just music teachers. We're not just musicians. We're not like it's all just like a part of our lives. And I'm glad you get to like help teachers and help artists like go through that journey. It sounded almost like was the first step just an identity shift for him too? Like what was the first step with like
Actually,
being
in
able to
his
help?
case, he had already done a lot of work learning
Uh-huh.
social media, but he learned it from the bro marketing kind of style. That's one way
Mm.
of talking about
How would you
it.
describe that?
The bro marketing style is very Tony Robbins. It's very masculine driven. It's a lot of urgency and scarcity. If you don't buy
Mm.
now, then you miss out on this, and a lot of pain point marketing. If you don't buy this, then this bad thing is going to happen to you. He
Hmm.
had done a lot of studying of marketing from that sort of overly aggressive, masculine, and not, there's nothing wrong with it, honestly.
Hmm.
It's just not balanced, and it doesn't work for everyone. And it particularly doesn't work for sort of more sensitive artist types.
Hmm.
And unless you can get yourself fully in alignment with it, then you find yourself sort of like, why isn't this working? Like it's supposed to work. I see it working for other people. I see like the webinar with the, hard sell urgency at the end funnel with all the emails, like other people are making lots of money from that. Why aren't I making money for that? Well, cold DM strategy. It's like, okay, I'm doing all these cold DMs, but why do I feel so sick in my stomach? you know? So
Yeah.
so he had learned a lot of these strategies, and he didn't like them. And so when you learn strategies that don't really sit well with you, like where you're just feeling sort of a little bit off in your integrity or a little bit off in your energy, it creates procrastination. It creates
Hmm.
this sort of like, oh, I'll do that later. You don't even quite know what's going on, but you just feel this little bit of like, I don't feel like doing that. Or it's like, I don't like it and it doesn't work and sales are bad and marketing's bad. So I just will quit and try to find, so he would go in and out of
Hmm.
trying these strategies. They didn't really work for him. They didn't make him feel good. And then he discovered me, and I was marketing in a really different way. And at that time, I hadn't learned many of the bro marketing strategies yet. I learned them later. But at this
Hmm.
stage, I was really doing a lot of my marketing just through my massive enthusiasm for what I was doing. This is was sort of a natural attraction marketing, which is an alternative to the quote bro marketing.
Yeah.
So I was just so enthusiastically selling from the bottom of my heart, like I was just so passionate about it, that he felt very magnetized. And
Hmm.
so he came into my world at that time with this more experience with the other kind of marketing than I had, but new to the idea that you could just sell from your heart, or what I would call sell from your soul. And so the
Yeah.
the big initial shift for him was really understanding that there were other ways to sell that would be more in alignment with his soul, with his integrity, with his, moral compass. And that while the marketing things that he had learned, they worked, and some of them, they worked for some people, but he didn't like them. And so there were things about that he could take and still use, but implement in this more heart-centered, heart-led, soul-led way of marketing. And so that was really the first shift for him.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Especially with like a lot of the teachers that I work with, it's it's similar with like their business model as well, where they they probably taught in a one-on-one setting their whole entire career. So when it comes to like moving towards a group setting or creating an online course, um, some of those models feel aligned to them, but a lot of what I work on is like helping them craft their own hybrid model where they can choose what they want, choose what feels aligned with them as well. Because some teachers they like to fill in their one-on-one spots, but also too is like it gets to the point where they're filling their spots with students who just aren't aligned with them,
Yes.
or more importantly, students who aren't in the right model for them. Because some students thrive in a one-on-one setting, some students thrive better in a group setting, some students thrive when you have like you let go of control and you let them learn through a video. So putting the right student through the right model is something that I teach a lot of my teachers, but it's they go through that same feeling as well, where it's like I've been doing this for so long, but like why doesn't it why doesn't it feel right anymore? Like something needs to change. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
I totally feel
Yeah,
you.
that's a beautiful analogy. It's exactly that. It's recognizing that your business gets to be right for you. It gets to feel good if you
Hmm.
want it to. And that's whether we're talking about how you market it or how you create your offers or what kind of offers you make or what kind of students you take. You absolutely can take dream students and not take ones that drain your energy. That was another thing for me back in the day.
Hmm.
If I had understood that I didn't like teaching, it wasn't that I didn't like teaching, it's that I didn't like teaching students that drained my energy. Whereas there were the
Yeah.
other ones where afterwards I felt elated and like I had lived my purpose. And then there were the
Hmm.
ones where I was like, man, I need to take a nap and watch a bunch of General Hospital. So,
Can I ask you a question about the soulful selling?
sure.
Um, for you, like, what is your process for like tapping into that feeling when you're writing your own content? I'd love to know more about that process too, because I feel like a big problem teachers and artists do like go through when they're creating content is it's part of like that cycle you're talking about where they're attaching too much to the outcome, or trying to um, we're trying to uh, get a reaction. There's expectations for our content, where instead we need to do the opposite. Like the way that I treat it as like a documentation. I treat it like it's a reflection of me, but I'm not attached to any outcome from my content. So I'd love to know more about you. How do you tap into that feeling? How do you get away from being attached to an outcome and get towards being detached?
Well, I mean, the first thing is what you're just saying is even having the awareness that
Mm,
maybe it's not about the outcome and it's about the sharing or it's about the communication, it's about creating connection, it's about sharing your journey and being authentic. So, all of
the
that.
awareness. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean the awareness is for sure the first thing, and even a decision to detach yourself from outcome and results. So it's not that we don't want the results, it's that we're not going to sacrifice our integrity for a result. And
Hmm.
then the more you're showing up in this very heart-centered, soul aligned way, then it becomes easier and easier to just share whatever it is, and your journey, share your thoughts, share um, your thought leadership, and magnetize people to you who are attracted to what it is that you have to say. And so there's just a really big difference in terms of the way in which people come into my world and the way that maybe they could. So there's people can come in because they want you to solve a problem for them, which is what you're taught in marketing, they have this, and then you talk about it all the time and you make people feel their pain. It's like so awful. It's like this horrible thing that you're struggling with. You don't have enough money, or you're burnt out from all of these students and you're on that hamster wheel, and you can like drill into the pain, and then people come to you like desperate for you to help solve their problem. But
Hmm.
that's not really how I want people to come into my world. I would prefer they come into my world because I talk about what they desire,
Hmm.
because I see them in their greatness, because I can see an exponential shift in what's possible for them if they were to take personal responsibility for their own success. And I will help guide, I will walk with them, I will I'll carry the flashlight as they move forward. But my expectation is that you, the client, is going to do the work
Yep.
because you're extraordinary, because you have all these amazing gifts, because you're a miracle. And that's how I want people to come into my world, not because I see them in their pain, but because I see them in their greatness.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The feeling that I get out of the feeling that I personally get out of reading your content and just absorbing it is a lot of empowerment and a lot of courage that comes with it as well. And that's been a shift for me lately about like how I'm creating my own content as well, because I've been through that whole like bro marketing phase as well. Like that's how I was taught, so I didn't know any other way. But um, when I started tapping more into myself as an artist and my own spirituality, and then how that's connected to business as well, it's like um, I'm like I am. constantly living out of courage, doing things that like are gonna stretch me, um, like like getting a music production coach, like doing my own events when I don't even know how to like run an event or even set one up. I didn't know the first thing, but I just did it.
And you do
And
now.
yeah, exactly. And being able to live that way, like I want that energy and I want that feeling to be fed into my content. Um so yeah, that's the thing that I noticed about you that really resonated with me when we first connected.
Thank you. And I really want to make it clear that there's not anything wrong with any
Yeah.
other style of marketing, and it can be a great place to start. And I went there too. I learned. I mean, it's through contrast that we discover what actually works for us. So, for
Yeah.
example, like cold DMing, there's nothing wrong with that if you and in
Hmm.
a lot of cases, if you're an extrovert type personality who likes to start conversations. I'm not an extrovert type personality. I'm an introvert type personality. So I don't want to start a new conversation necessarily with somebody that I've never met. And I will if I feel inspired or something. Like I remember seeing your content and being like, wow, this guy is, he's doing some cool stuff over here. He's like, I like what I'm seeing. I can start one conversation. I don't remember who started it, whether it was me or you, but it's
Yeah.
like one conversation at a time. But to put out like 20 DMs a day to new people and then get 20 replies, that's a little bit too much
It
for
could be
me.
over. Yeah. Yeah.
But that
Cause
could work
I'm
for someone else.
exactly. And like through this journey, like I'm still discovering like what's working for me and what's working for my clients. But I think like the the main thing that has shifted for me as a coach now is in the beginning I would teach like what to do, and now I'm teaching like more like how to think and how to help my clients find their process, how to find what aligns with them, and it's so much more freeing, but
Yeah.
also um, that's the way that really like aligns with me. And I've always been the type of person to just like figure it out, make it work, make it happen. um, and I'm glad that I get to work with a lot of people who are the same way as well, who will just figure it out, make it happen for themselves.
And it ties into what you were speaking about earlier in terms of business model, that there isn't one business model that
Yeah.
is right for any particular teacher. And there's not one study, like learning styles, that some students actually prefer a passive course, or they prefer one to one, or they prefer a group environment. That it's so much about the finding what is going to work for you, whether it's your business model or whether it's your marketing style. And as coaches, I believe it's our job not to try to fit our clients into a cookie cutter, but
Yeah.
instead to really be there to witness their growth and their own sort of figuring it out, making their own unique pie. Their unique sandcastle. It's like what is the individual, you have the tools, you can share, you can say these are all different models and marketing styles you can try on, but what's going to
Mhm.
fit you the best?
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that. Well, I guess last thing is like for you personally, what's next?
Oh,
Like
what's
what's
next?
next in your journey?
So I have been really reinvesting myself in my own singing. It's
Mhm.
always
Nice.
that journey. And so if you go to my profiles right now, I'm more active on Facebook and Instagram. Then you're going to see a lot of marketing as a business coach, a lot of inspirational content, and you're going to see more of my own singing woven through. Now, the way that I
Nice.
am sharing my singing right now is as a journey, as I learn more of the production stuff, and
Mhm.
as I come back from having, taken something from a break, and I'm really sharing the journey of how my, whole being is tied into myself as an artist, myself as a coach, and how I walk that that path. And then in terms of, and so that's like any piece of content you see, you're going to find a lesson there, whether I'm sharing my singing or whether I'm talking about business. I
Mhm.
have a amazing Reels course
Oh,
that
nice.
people can check out. It's called Real Magic. And I'm about to add a new bonus to that. So it's 200 scripts, prompts, templates, hooks, and ideas to really make it so much easier for you to go from idea to execution and really be more on target than that throwing the spaghetti on the wall. But I'm
Mhm.
just going to add, and there's already, it's so robust, but there's so much in there. But I decided I really wanted to add a new bonus right now on the memes that are going around. It's like, how do you create a meme?
Nice.
Because that's the trend right now. So it's like people go, "Wow, that's so cool! I don't know any. How do you do that?" It's actually really easy. So I'm just going to pop a bonus into that program. I'm going to film that this week, and I am constantly serving performers in my Profitable Performer Revolution program. That's a year-long program where I just
Uh-huh.
support performers through the journey of really learning how to market and sell their product online. So this combination of being an artist and being a coach.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, after this, like I'll ask you for any links that you want to put in the description. Like anyone can find those around this video.
Nice.
Cool, cool. Well, appreciate you for sharing your story. It's been such a pleasure. I think one of my biggest takeaways was finding gratitude in what you already have. And like the story of you're doing your own like performances at like what you said retirement homes and stuff like that, and it was paying you good money, but you felt like, oh, I need to take on this audition, or I need to do this other maybe like lower paying but maybe high exposure gig. um but if you like realize that like you were already on that path where you're doing the gigs you want, you're teaching the way that you want to, and continue going with that, like that really resonated with me um, as well, because I was thinking like one of my goals is this year is to possibly perform at like one of the nightclubs here in San Diego. I think it'd be an awesome goal to be able to do that because
Yeah,
it is like getting high exposure, but also I've really come to terms that like if it doesn't happen at all, then I don't really care because I've already hit the end goal, which my end goal is to make my own events. My end goal is to be able to build my own community there. So I'm currently doing that. Everything else is like a bonus from here. So I can go into it with a lot of energy and not be really like desperate for it.
that's fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Other than that though, like appreciate you for being here.
Oh, it's my
And
pleasure.
yeah, I'm excited for everyone to hear the story. Of
Thank you. Thank you
course, of
for
course.
having this platform and inviting me to share it with you for a moment.